Shalom. I like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakah Kodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS, who are the true leaders of Israel today. And salutations to my Akim, who do this work in truth and sincerity, who are risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come looking like the heathen, but are not, by way of their forefathers' seeds, who are Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai. And the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as were the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. This is your brother Yakali from the GMS Jamaica Kingston camp, and this video is about these so-called white people who are the biblical Edomites, alright? And I'm just gonna use, the scriptures mostly to just quickly prove who the Edomites are, man, alright? So we have this book here from Google, Who is Esau Edom? Alright, which is an actual book that exists. Alright. It's on Amazon even. Okay. And, this book essentially reveals that, these Edomites, the biblical Edomites whose forefathers Esau are the so-called white people. Okay. So I'm just starting with that because I just wanted to use this image. You know what I'm saying? But as well, you have literary proof, all right, that shows based off of history and the scriptures, which the scriptures are history, you know what I'm saying, proves who these people are. All right, but let's just jump into the scriptures, man. All right, now we can take this from several angles, but let's just start from the book of Genesis. All right, so chapter 25, verse, let's start at verse 25. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. All right, so he came out red like an hairy garment. When they referred to a hairy garment, they were just referring to any kind of garment, and the child came out red. All right, when you look at the world today and you look at the complexions of the people on this earth, all right, there are no white people and there are no black people. Okay, those are social constructs created by the so-called white man, the Edomites. And even when you look at the definition of those two words from their etymology, you'll see why it is that Esau Edom did this. All right. Going back to the topic at hand. All right. There are no white and no black people, but there are red and brown people. So we are brown. We're different shades of brown. All of the other nations on the earth are different shades of brown. The only outlier is the so-called white man. He's the only one that comes in that red hue, that pink hue, that very raw flesh toned hue. Salakio. That's them. Okay. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when he bare them. All right, so, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Okay, so even when you read this right here, traits between the two, right? So the scriptures mention that Esau was a cunning hunter. One thing that these Edomites form and these so-called white people is that they love to do big game, which is them going to like some densely populated area, like I don't know, somewhere in Africa, and then they just hunt giraffes and elephants and rhinos just for fun. You know what I'm saying? And then he said that Jacob was a plain man. All right. And I believe this word plain here means perfection, right? He's a perfect man. All right. So anyway, we're on Esau. So Esau was born, twin to Jacob. His skin color is mentioned. All right. The way he looks and one of his traits. All right. Which matches with these so-called white people. All right. Now, in the book of Genesis, since we're here, Esau was given a blessing. So let's jump onto the blessing. Let's go straight to the point. This is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me even. Me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. Which means that at a certain point in history, in time, Esau would have dominion over the earth. Complete dominion. All right. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and he will live by the sword. So the way that he will conquer people, the way that he would rule, is by way of murdering people. Okay, that's the way they live. All right. Every single time Esau is doing anything, his last resort is going to always be, or not even last resort, but he resorts to slaying people, showing people his might through violent means. And shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So Esau is supposed to serve Jacob, but Isaac gave Esau the blessing that he would get dominion over the earth. And though he is a servant to his brother Jacob, there will come a time where he will break the yoke from off his neck. In other words, he will no longer be subject to Jacob anymore. So now Esau is a representation of the Edomites. His sons are the Edomites. All right. And Jacob's son, Jacob is named Israel. Jacob's sons are the children of Israel, you know. Starting from, Judah going on down to Issachar. All right. So right now, at this moment in time, and for the past couple of centuries, these so-called white people have been in rulership, right? Now, they have been in rulership before as well, during the time of the Greeks, and then transitioning into their Roman Empire. That's when they ruled. But the thing about the Roman Empire is that they didn't have complete dominion over the earth the way that they have it now. And that goes to show you the blessing of Esau. Okay? And when you look at history, the scriptures mention two nations that have complete dominion over the earth. Esau would have his, even though it's temporary, and then Jacob would have his, which is permanent. All right? So only two nations would rule in this kind of manner, is the point. Now, there has been one nation, one heathen nation on this planet that has had complete dominion over the earth when you look at the history, and that is these so-called white people. They're the only ones of all of the heathen nations who have ever had dominion like this over the earth. Complete control. Okay? So this point where Esau would have dominion over the earth. Now let's go to Job chapter 9 verse 24. And it says, The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not wherein who we see. So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Who are the wicked? Let's get that. All right. Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4, Whereas Edom saith, We are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. They shall call them, who's the them that is being called the border of wickedness? The Edomites, and the people against whom the Lord Yahweh hath indignation forever. And by the way, up here it says that he hates Esau, verse 2, and loves Jacob. All right, so the Most High hates Esau. All right, Esau is Edom. Edom is the border of wickedness, or the wicked. All right. And the Most High also said that they will build, they will return and build, but that he will throw down. So when you even look at that and you look at the history, these Edomites, these so-called white people, they were rebirthed in the Renaissance period. That's their rebirth. So they came back and they started to build, and they've been building and they have built. But we're in the transition period, right? When you go back to that Genesis, the first Genesis that I read, when it said that Jacob held the heel of Esau, that was intentional by Yahweh Shemeshai to show you that Jacob held the heel of Esau to pull Esau out of power. When is Esau going to be pulled out of power? By Yahweh. When Yahweh returns, he's going to pull Esau out of power. All right? And then we will rule. All right, so it's all spiritual. But here it is that they're called the border of wickedness. Esau, Edom, the border of wickedness. So we go back to the Job chapter 9, verse 24, and it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So now we know who the wicked are through the scriptures. The wicked are the Edomites, whose forefather is Esau. And then we go back to the Genesis where the blessing was given out to Esau, that he would have dominion over the earth, the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven. And there are only two people, two nations that would ever have this kind of dominion over the earth, and it's Esau and Jacob. And it certainly isn't Jacob right now, because Jacob isn't the wicked. Jacob is the righteous, but Esau is the wicked. So now the next thing you have to look at is the way that the world is being ruled right now. Okay, clearly, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the Israelites are not ruling. If the Israelites were truly ruling, then the law, statutes, and commandments would be established in the land, as it talks about in Isaiah chapter 2, I believe. Let me just see this real quick so that I'm not. All right. And Isaiah 2 verse 1, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord Yahweh, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord Yahweh from Jerusalem. Right? This is not happening. The heathen nations aren't going up to Esau, Edom to learn, going up to the rulers today to learn their ways. They are being forced to learn their ways. When the Israelites are in rulership, the heathen nations are going to willingly want to go to the Israelites, because they will see that the Israelites are keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shemishai, and that they are also prosperous in doing so. So that is why the heathen nations will willingly and gladly run up to the Israelites to learn. But they're not doing that with Esau, Edom. They have to be beaten under subjection to do so. All right. And I had a point, but I kind of, so, truth be told, on this kind of topic, so many things go through my head at the same time, but I'm trying to keep it focused. All right. So the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Going back to this, look at the world today. It is the so-called white man whose language dominates. Worldwide, everywhere around the world, his language dominates. Even if the heathen nations are still speaking their language, they are teaching the language of the so-called white man. It is the so-called white man whose currency dominates, whether it be the US dollar or the other branches of, which would be the ruble, the Russian ruble, the EU dollar, the UK pound. All of these are very strong. Okay? These are all Edomite-led nations. All right. But the US dollar, especially, the power that it has coming from America, that shows you. So you have the language, you have the currency, you have the values of the Edomite. They call it their democracy. That is what is pushed around the world. That is what is being forced on the other nations. All right. And then who is most feared from all of these heathen nations? The Edomites, these so-called white people. Why? Because they have power. When it is that they demonstrated what they demonstrated on Hiroshima, Japan, they made all of the other heathen nations fearful. All right? So that goes to show you, man, that they're in power. The way that they build, all right, the structures that they build, which then when you look at the way that they build, that goes back, you can relate that in history. The Romans built the same way that the so-called white people built today, and these so-called white people claim the Roman Empire. It's the same people. All right. So all of these things really just prove that the Edomites are in rulership. And then it says another that shows you, Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear through, the people mourn. So the wicked, once again, are the Edomites, whose forefathers Esau. Okay. And when they bear rule, which their time would come to bear rule, which is right now, the people will mourn. So they are really ruling right now, because the scriptures prove itself, right? That the people in the world are mourning. Upwards of people around the world, all these kinds of things. Nobody's happy. But when the righteous are in authority, the people will be rejoicing. So that goes to show you once again, man, that the wicked are in rulership, and the wicked are these Edomites, and these Edomites are these so-called white people. All right. All of the traits of the Edomites, everything about their history, every single thing matches perfectly with these so-called white people, and it's undeniable. All right. So I just want to keep this topic short and sweet and straight to the point. You know what I'm saying? I could always go a little bit more in depth. Let me just bring out this one as well. This book, The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomites, which proves that those so-called white men in Rome are actually Edomites, okay, who were in Rome at that time. And it's the same people that were then there, that were there then, that are here today ruling. All right, they just have complete dominion over the earth. So with that, I'd like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kodesh, Wa Abad, Babal, Shalom.